Welcome to today's episode of Expert Showcase. Today on the show we have Antiqua Lisha, and she's going to be talking to you, and teaching you how to have a high vibe for high visibility. Hey there, Antiqua. How you doing today?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, Chris. It's great to be here. Hi, everybody.
Oh, you're welcome. It's going to be an epic show. For those of you, hunker down, stick close to your monitors and your headphones, because Antiqua has got a wealth of knowledge to share with you today, and I'm sure you're going to find this is going to be an epic episode. As we always do, we're going to start off with Antiqua's heroine's journey. We're going to get a quick overview of, where she came from, that turning point she had in her life, and then the aftermath. So, Antiqua, why don't you give us a quick overview of your journey?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to try to boil it down and actually make it quick, Chris. I was really born into this journey. So I had every reason to not like myself, to believe that I was literally a piece of meat, and to be angry for the rest of my life. As my counselor once told me, every excuse to be angry forever, and it's totally okay. And it wasn't okay. It wasn't okay for me. I wanted to live a happy life, a life on purpose. When I was in my first 10 years of life, I went through sexual and physical abuse. In my second 10 years of life, I went through the rebellion, the aftermath, the flashbacks, the basically PTSD that comes from childhood abuse, even though I was out of the abuse itself and into the recovery mode. In my 20s, the next 10 years, I had cancer and adrenal failure. I suffered from depression, and rightfully so, and major food allergies that affected my depression and my energy levels as a whole. All while really teaching about this self-love concept of self-care and getting healthy, and how do I do that, and how do you do that naturally. In my 30s, I was really about honing the skills and sharing the skills that I learned through those other phases of my life, about how to stand out, how to be visible, how to stand in your truth, how to own your value and your charisma and your confidence, even when you don't have that solid foundation of a magnificent childhood to stand on. And so I honed those skills. In 2011, I became America's premier expert in self-care. I've become a best-selling author. I have 3 wonderful companies, and I work with people personally and privately to help them step into their genius, really see themselves as the individual and the person of worth that they are, no matter what their history is, because I can relate to many kind of negative, crappy histories, and cut the crap, basically, and shine their light, put their genius into the world, however that means to them. Sometimes it means being a really great parent, and other times it means becoming a best-selling author, or speaking on stage, or being a coach, or doing something like I do.
Yeah, that is epic, and it's what I've found, and this is one of the reasons for those of you watching, this is one of the reasons I wanted to have Antiqua on the show, because what I found is that people who've gone through as much as Antiqua has, that they are more empathetic than a lot of people, because they've been there, they've done that, and they can help so
Yeah.
many. They can help people, in more ways than I could even count. So, it's sad what you had to go through, but it's great that you have turned it into something that you can help other people let their light shine, and really make sure that other people have, the epic life that they deserve. So let's get into it. Let's go ahead and really go back to the beginning. And at this point with the beginning, and I know you've had a lot of struggles, what I would say is let's focus on the time before the turnaround, and kind of the time, wherever you want to start, in the time that led up to the turnaround, and what was the, I'll say, most impactful thing, and the biggest, the most impactful thing that happened during the beginning. Let's start there.
Oh, before the turnaround, the biggest, most impactful thing that happened to me was I was, I was abused. I was defined by the outside world. And although in my own personal experience there was a lot of confusion around that, I had a sense of love in my home as well as a lot of criticism. I had a sense of I was told you can do anything and you have to be responsible, and taught the spiritual truths. And at the same time, I was beaten each night and went through different cases of molestation all before the age of 12. And so it was very confusing to me to know who to believe and what to believe. I leaned into school a lot, and school always had become my mecca, my place of study, all the way through high school. By the time I was out of the abuse and everything, became my go-to place for my worth. Another place that I shined was on stage. I was a performer, I'm a singer, and so I'd get on stage and I'd get on TV and I'd get on things in elementary school, and I'd be noticed and people would see my worth. And so those things really helped me to start kind of looking at the fact that other things define me, and it's not all bad.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't yet know to define myself, which is what we'll talk about later today, but I did know that the definitions weren't all bad, and I did know that my own worth wasn't just as a toy.
Yeah, and that is so, and I'll say this again and again and again and again in case I don't, because we get in such a great conversation. Thank you for being so open and sharing. The biggest thing, and the biggest thing that I picked up from there was that because of everything that was happening to you, the outside world was defining you, and I think we all go through that a lot. We all go through the fact of letting other people define who we are versus us defining it ourselves, and it's easier in a situation like yours to let other people define you because that's what is going on in a relationship. I mean, everything, let's face it, the relationships and the challenges that you went through, you weren't defining any of that. I mean, you had no control over that. Everybody else was defining you. So it was, it's epic to see the fact that, that you realize that, and that you look at that, and that's one of the reasons why, if you're watching this right now, that's one of the reasons why you need to contact Antiqua and need to look at how to working with her, because she's been where other people have defined her, and now she's defined herself, and it's it's an incredible definition. You're going to get a chance to see that going forward. I've gotten the privilege to see it in the background for a while now, and that's why she's on the show. So it's interesting because I guess one question I'd have would be, and it might be difficult, but if people, is there a way, looking back on it now, is there a way that you could have understood that other people were defining you sooner than you did? And could you have asked yourself, is there a question? I guess let me phrase it a different way. For those of us who are watching and questioning and maybe don't know if anybody else is defining us, and this we're going to talk about, I'm sure we're going to talk about a lot of this later on, but is there one question, since everybody's in the moment right now, is there one question that somebody could ask themselves to figure out if they're in this place of not being self-defined?
Yes, for sure. And let me explain self-defined. Self-defined can be, I call it hiding behind the middleman, and the middleman is three different things. One, the middleman can appear as somebody else, like your mother defining you, your father defining you, your boss, your friends, your husband, your wife, your best friend. Oh, you're this way. I know you better than you know yourself. Have you heard that before?
Yeah.
It's like, no, you don't. No, like I'm still figuring myself out. You don't know me better than I know myself. Um, but it's, so there's that. And then there's defined by circumstance. There's defined by circumstance. So this is still outside definition. This is still loss of power in defining yourself in the sense that something else is defining you. So if that something is taken away, then it's gone. So, it might be I am a survivor of sexual abuse. So that becomes my definition point, right? Or I've worked with many women who are very high up leading and leaders in AA. Like they're absolute thrivers. They've been in recovery for years, but their childhood abuse turned them into, drugs and figuring things out, and then they got out of it, and now they help people. But they define themselves as I am a survivor of blah, blah, blah. Another way that looks like is I'm a PhD. I'm a best-selling author. I am a 2001 America's Premier Expert. However you want to define it. That is how the outside world is defining us. And those things are really great and good for the outside world and for our bio, right? To say, oh, listen to me, there's credibility here, I've done my research. But they're still outward definitions of circumstance. So to answer your question, the question that you'd ask yourself, well, I'm going to answer it twofold. One, could I have answered it for myself at my young age? No. And because I say no, because we know that before the age of 7, the brain is literally sucking in the world, and we're designed and supposed to be defined by our outside circumstances, which is why being a parent is such a beautiful gift, because you get to define that person. That's the brain, the mental brain. So by the time I kind of started figuring this out, I was 13 when I went home and I told, and my life changed in a week. And that's when I started bringing people home, starting with myself, to their own body. And that's when I started telling and being the visibility coach and sharing this message. So I don't know for me if I could have said anything earlier, but I did still look for that outside approval for the next 10 years or longer. The next part of that is, what question could you ask as an adult? As an adult right now, is the world defining me, or am I defining myself and living that definition in the world, which are two very different things.
Yeah.
And that would be when you introduce yourself, what gives you credibility?
Okay, excellent. So what I'm going to do is, for everybody, we might touch on this later on, but I think it's a good place to leave you with something, because if you want more about that and we don't talk about it later, you're going to have to get in touch with Antiqua to have her tell you more. And I think people should get in touch with you. So let's get into the turning point, because it's interesting. It sounded like you started even to talk about the turning point. And the turning point in this whole thing for you came still when you were a child, if I understand things correctly, and that's beautiful. It's epic, because a lot of children suffer with what you went through their entire life, or for a lot longer than their childhood. So as far as the turning point goes, tell us a little bit about it. I mean, what maybe. In fact, here would be a good question, because I think people will resonate with it. What clicked in your head that it was finally time to? What was that seminal moment that clicked in your head that it was finally time to take action?
I wish that there was a time, or something that clicked in my head. It might sound really strange, but I'm just going to tell you the straight facts and the truth of what happened that day. So we had horses, and we had a horse stable. And this another older gentleman decided that I should be his girlfriend, and he tried to kiss me, and I knew it was coming next. Like I had been down this road before, and I was 13 at the time, And somehow, and I don't even know how, because I know everything was locked, I got out of the horse stable and I ran into this field in the back called Dry Creek in North Glen, Colorado, which is now full of houses. And I hunkered down and hid, and I was just crying, and I was like, Lord, not again. I can't do this again. Like, I can't do it. I can't do it again. Please, help me. And I was crying, begging him to just kill me, take my life, get me out of it. And an image of the Lord appeared in front of me, how I see the Lord, and said a couple words, go home and tell. And somehow I got up and walked the mile home, walked in and told my adopted father to what happened. And even though he had molested me, like, I don't know, like, he got mad and he went and he defended me to this guy and came home and said, what else has happened? And I told him about some of the boys at school grabbing my chest, and he proceeded to call the parents of my friends, and it humiliated me. It was humiliating. So I called him into a back room and I said, how would you like it if I went to your work and I told everybody what you did to me? And it had been 2 years, but my mother was listening. She had stood outside the door for some reason. And, he responded, that wouldn't be good, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, don't do that to my school friends. Like, don't do that to me. And he, I think he got the point. But then when we came out, my mom said, what happened? And I told her, and she said, I've heard this before. And I said, yeah, I've told you before. Yeah. And he couldn't deny it because he just didn't. And we were out of the house within a week and pressed charges and, so forth and so on. And the conversation on both sides of my family started about molestation and abuse.
Well, and so that's what is so epic about you and your situation, is that unlike a lot of people, your family eventually stuck behind you and made positive changes, and you made positive changes in your life, and you refused to be a victim any longer. The amazing part for those of you out there watching, unfortunately for everybody, you're not going to get the sign from God, or you're not going to get the burning bush, or
right.
You're not going to get
right.
that. But if you do,
I've never got it again. I pray for it all the time, and I've never got it again.
But if you do, you have to listen to it. It's like the old story about the guy that's going through a flood, and the water starts to rise, and the fire department comes along and says,
story.
Yeah, so first the fire department comes along and says, "Sir, you must evacuate." And he said, "No, God will save me." And then the water gets a little bit higher, and somebody else comes along and says, "Sir, you need to come. You need to come with it. Get in the boat. You need to come with us." And he says, "No, God will save me." And finally the water's all the way up to the top of the roof of the house, and he's on the roof, and a helicopter comes over and says, "Sir, we need to get you out of here." And he says, "No, God will save me." And then the water gets higher than the top of the house, and he dies, and he's up in heaven. He's looking at God, and he says, "Hey, God, what did I do wrong? I said I lived in faith, and I said you were going to save me." And God looks at him and says, "I sent you a car, a boat, and a helicopter. What more do you want?" So the whole point is that you might not get the burning bush, but if you do, like Antiqua, you listen to it and move on. And if you don't,
But I had to take action. Like, I had to go home and tell. And I was just reflecting a few weeks ago, like, I've never had a job where I wasn't bringing people home. Like, whether I was the couple jobs that I've done outside of health and beauty and wellness, where I was bringing people home physically to their physical bodies to love themselves, have been, I worked for Ryder Trucks, moving people home.
Right.
I worked in real estate, moving people home.
There you go.
And the other thing that God told me to do was tell. And besides writing and speaking and telling and coaching, which is all really about sharing and visibility and doing things like we're doing right here, right now, the only other jobs that I've had are in marketing, you know, and shooting videos, doing voiceover work, and literally selling ads for the local paper and stuff here. So, so it's really funny. I've never done anything. I'm qualified. Like at that day, God said, okay, you're qualified to go home and tell. And that's all I've been doing for the last 30 years is helping people to come home to themselves and tell.
Yeah, and that's a great segue into the aftermath, because the aftermath, thank goodness for you, the aftermath has been so much longer than the beginning or the turning point. You know, for a lot of folks
Yeah.
that are watching today, whether it's physical abuse or whether it's just struggle, whether it's struggles in business, they've probably been going through that beginning and that turning point a whole lot longer. The beautiful part is your aftermath has been so great. And before we get into your aftermath, what I want to say to everybody is you definitely need to listen and stick around. Also, watch the rest of this, because you know Antiqua's aftermath has been 30 years and now growing. And I don't care if you're 70 or even 80 years old. With the technology we have today, your aftermath can be that long too. So stick around and listen. So let's talk about the aftermath, and let's talk about it's we heard the beginning of the aftermath, which was your family came together and started to support you. What happened after that, and how did that start to grow, so to speak?
Well, for me, it's been a real growing experience because I did have to deal with the flashbacks and all of that. So there was a lot of healing that has taken place over the last 30 years, and in the 30 years of me really having to come home to myself. And my body went through a lot of breakdown. Like I said, in my 20s, I had cancer. I've had adrenal failure because my fight, flight, or freeze system was off. I suffered from those flashbacks and PTSD symptoms. And for the most part, it's gone. And that's a miracle. And you can read more about my story in From Failure to Success, or God's Miracles, or Holistic Fashionistas Memoirs, or my personal book, From Bondage to Happiness. All can be found on Amazon and also on my website and my bookstore. But the aftermath that I feel like we should talk about today is really this place of stepping into your purpose and recognizing your purpose and defining yourself. And that aftermath actually has only happened in the last, since I was 33, so like 8 years,
Okay.
8 or 9 years, and or 7 or 8 years. And it came from getting through this place of having to rush to take care of my body. My body no longer needed to be my main focus. It wasn't about to die. It wasn't anything. It came from not having to rush any longer and knowing those secrets that I now teach my clients to control my mind. So I was no longer struggling with the negative thoughts and the old stories as much. I knew when I got them how to handle them and how to eliminate them and how to reprogram my brain. So I've been reprogramming that 0 to 7-year-old brain with positive thoughts, with thoughts of redemption, basically.
Oh,
And
go
yeah.
ahead.
And so I've learned how to do that, and I do that with clients. So I was doing that for a couple years, and so that was complete. And then I have had this opportunity to learn how to feel. Because oftentimes, if you're raised in a tumultuous relationship or in a war-torn area, a lot of my clients are from places that were war-torn. But whether it was in their house personally, in just their house, or literally their whole country, that we don't know how to feel. We know how to manage and feel sadness and depression and anger and fight and rebellion and all those kind of what they call lower vibrations. but we don't know how to manage the higher vibrations. Because they weren't safe. If you're really, really happy, oh, keep it down. If you're really vivacious and loud, oh, the bombs could go off, you know?
Yeah.
So how do you retrain yourself to, as Gay Hendricks says, take that upper limit off and really live a life of that's safe, that is also learning to be more and more fun. So I'm continuously learning how to raise my own cap on joy and fun and abundance and wealth and experience. And it's constant for me. It's still something that's expanding. There's still more joy to be filled. I definitely am not scared of the sadness. Like some people that only know how to feel joy get like, oh, I can't be sad, you know. Like that's not something for me or my clients. Like we're not really scared of that. We're used to that. We're more, how do I do this really happy thing? So I started training myself on how to be happy and how to take that cap off my ceiling, how to step into the wealth journey, how to step into my money story, how to change the emotional state of my being into a high vibration. So then universe, God, whatever the world does, as quantum physics has been teaching us, can really deliver back to me more of what I really desire, and that is more of these high vibrational, high visibility experiences to share my message and to have my clients share theirs.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you clear the junk out. I talk to people a lot, and people, even if it's something as simple as having way too many bookmarks on your in your internet browser, or having too many books on your bookshelf, or having too much furniture in the house. People don't realize how clutter, whether it's outward or inward, can really affect can really affect what you're doing, and can really stop you from receiving the gifts that you're meant to receive. So,
Yeah.
and I think that's the one thing, as we start to wind down the heroine's journey of this part of the show. And as we start to, like I said, start to kind of wind down, I think it's the one thing that I want all of our listeners and viewers to take away, is the fact that as you go through your turning point and your aftermath, you're gonna get the chance, and it's not have to, but it's get the chance to be different and get the chance to be better, and realize that different is a scary place, but realize that different, if you're going through all of these challenges, different is better. And that the rest of your life is going to be better once you get through it.
Yeah.
Before we
And
go ahead.
we don't, like, the last thing that I really want to say is that I ask my clients, and one thing that is really important, my free gift at my website, antiqualisha.com, is 237 Ageless Beauty and Timeless Mind truths. They're timeless truths for relationships, for mind, for this high vibe, so you can like tap into how to develop these things within yourself, because we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
Like, we just don't know, and it's okay not to know how. I didn't know how to be happy. I didn't know how to live a delicious, pleasurable life. Even though my name is Lisha. As we were joking before, like, I had a negative connotation with the word delicious. I had to make peace with that. Like, what does a delicious life look like to me? What do I really want out of that? And what does it still look like? And I'm still learning how to feel into that. And that's where the real fruit, I've heard, comes from, and I've experienced it too, but I've heard it on even a more epic level than I'm even at right now, that I look forward to.
Epic, yeah. It's funny because there's so many things I could say right now, and from the viewers, they know I just talk forever. But this is Antiqua's show today, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut. But anyway, well, this has been epic, and We're going to take a very, very quick break, about 30 to 45 seconds, but you want to stick around because after the break, we're going to come back and we're going to talk to Antiqua about her area of expertise and all about having a high vibe for high visibility. Are you a coach, an author, or a speaker who wants your very own web TV show just like Expert Showcase, only with all your branding around it? Then what you want to do is head on over to VideoContent.Agency, go up to the Work With Us tab, send us your information, let's start a conversation, let's see if we can develop a program around you and your message. And until we see you there, make it an epic day. And we're back for the expert focus segment of today's show. We're on the line on the video cam, as it were, with Antiqua Lisha. Oh, Antiqua, you had an incredible journey. We went through it during the heroine's journey portion of the show. For those of you out there who haven't watched it, if you're just tuning in, go back and watch the heroine's journey, and you'll understand in even greater depth and even greater detail why Antiqua is the one you want to work with. Now we're going to dive into the experts focus segment of our show and really focus in on a high vibe for high visibility. Antiqua, before we get into each of the 3 points, and I'll give the folks the 3 points in a second, give us a quick overview of what we're going to be talking about today.
So we're going to be talking about some of the things that I found get in the way of that visibility we're talking about in the heroine's journey, about defining yourself and allowing the world to define you. So we'll go a little bit deeper there. And then how all you really have to be is you. So when you're defining yourself and living a life that you define, how everything changes.
Epic. And this is going to be an epic conversation. I tell you folks, when I read what Antiqua wanted to do, I'm just like, I can't wait to get here because she's going to talk about getting out of your own way, which some people that everybody watching might know has a big problem with sometimes. So I'm looking forward to learning how to get out of my own way. Then we're going to get into the 3 C's to standing out, and finally, 1 life-changing word. So let's dive right into it. Getting out of your own way. How to feel at home with your message. What are we talking about here, Antiqua? I'm going to let me start taking active notes here, but I'll watch this video a lot. So what are we talking about here? Getting out of your own way.
Awesome. Oh, man. So we were talking about it a little bit earlier. So we're talking about how we let the world define us. So as we're kids, like, this is normal. The world does define us. We are soaking up the world literally. We have proven it. The brain at the beta level just sucks in information. We're little sponges until we're about 7 years old. So if you've sucked in a world of abundance and love and grace and you're enough and you can do anything, then, life usually turns out that way. We call those people, quote unquote, lucky.
Yeah.
Okay? If you sucked in, you're worthless pile of crap, blah, 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 we don't have enough money, oh, I'm so too fat in this shirt, I don't like myself, blah, 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 whatever else that was from our parents, because they didn't know any better. It's nobody's fault. Like, they sucked in the same information from their parents. This is that generational curse that we all go through, that we now know how to break. Luckily, this is our generation to break it, everybody. It's really our responsibility, if you're watching this, to break those patterns for your next generation. Only we can do it for ourselves. But if that's what you sucked into your reality, then that's most likely what you're continuously living out of into your reality. So this first phase is to really reprogram and redefine yourself and your brain. So there's a couple things I can walk you through a practice, and we'll go pretty fast here, but you can come back to this segment and you can watch it. So the first thing that you would do to get the middleman, that person, that thing, that circumstance standing between you and what you really are, who you really are, and what you want to do, is list 3 to 5 traits that you really love about yourself. And instead of focusing on all the things that you don't love, focus on the things that you do love. So when I first started this practice about 10 years ago, I could think it was really in relationship to my body. I was going through some body dysmorphia. So it was more than 10 years ago. I was about 27, 28. And I just thought I was this huge person, and couldn't see anything else in there. I said, what do you like? My coach said, what do you like about yourself? Name one thing. And the only thing that I thought was beautiful about me physically was my neck. This is it. This is it. Her right here was my neck. And so that's what I wrote down. And my coach said, just focus on your neck then. That's it. When any other thoughts come up, you just start talking to yourself about how much you love your neck and how you have a great neck. And now looking back, I'm like, how could I have possibly thought that I was ugly? Like what world am I in? You know, like, not pompously, like this was just what God gave me. But
Yeah.
it's like, I really did. I had this. So now there's more things to my list. Other things about your personality. So what about your personality do you really like? That's like tangible, that you really like about yourself. And instead of focusing on the things that you don't like or your parents said that you needed to fix, like a zit face and zit queen. My mother was so kind. That has me picking apart my face all the time. And so once I catch myself still in the habit of, like, in the mirror, trying to find every little nit and cranny, I say, no, I'm not the zit queen, actually. I'm good. I'm good. And I really like my eyes. Like, you have beautiful eyes. And everyone's just looking at your eyes anyway. You don't need to pick your face. You don't need to pick yourself apart. It's okay. So we utilize these things to get the middleman, to get that old subconscious training front and center, so we can see those patterns that we have, and then reprogram them with a positive yet true thing that we believe. Not that our counselor or some book or something told us, but something that you actually believe about yourself. So name these 3 to 5 traits that you love about yourself. And then the next thing that you can do is really write about 3 people that you really admire and 3 traits about them that you admire. And writing things down. And they can be dead or alive. Like Judy Garland was amazing on stage. Just incredible. She could captivate the stage and sing like an angel, and I absolutely love her and all these things. So like I wrote down her, a couple other people, Carolyn Mace and her intuition and the way that she trusts herself, and the medical intuitive, and how you feel things and you know things, and how she accepts that in herself and was a trailblazer and a leader. So then the traits that cross over, that you find in both areas of the people that you really admire and you, this is kind of, I usually have people do this practice and then tell them this secret afterwards, but because we're on a show, like, whatever. But you're going to circle those, and those are going to be your main 2 things to define yourself. So when you introduce yourself, you can say, hi, instead of, hi, my name is Antiqua, I'm the CEO of blah, 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 or I do this, I'm a coach for a living. You say, hi, my name is Antiqua, and I deeply, I'm a deeply passionate person. I just can relate to so many people and so many stories, and so that has drawn me into my work. And what I do is I work with women who are ready to really let go of their past stories, embrace their life, embrace themselves, and really share their story and their message with the world. And I help them package that as well on the end.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Mm-hmm. And so then I'm sharing my heart, a piece of me, the authentic piece of me, rather than selling my credentials and how the world is defining me. Do you feel and see that difference?
Yes.
And the thing about the 3 people that you admire most, whatever you see in others are things that are in you.
Yeah, and it just makes a huge difference. I mean, I think the biggest thing as we wrap up the segment on getting out of your own way and move into the next one, I think the biggest thing that I took from this was, especially when you introduce and talk to people, because we're all programmed, good or bad or indifferent, to lead with our credentials, because that's what we believe stands out, and that's what we believe the rest of the world wants to hear. And if I'm meeting somebody, I'd rather find out about them first and then hear their credentials second, because it'll let me know if I'm going to resonate with that person,
Yeah.
first.
Because you eliminate the middleman.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, so that, and it's kind of interesting. What was I going to say? I was trying to think of a short way to put it. For me, there is no short way to put it. So I'm going to get out of my own way and let's move into the second segment, the 3 C's to standing out. What are we talking about here?
So we are talking about the 3 C's, man. We're talking about clarity, credibility, and confidence.
Excellent. Clarity, credibility, and confidence. So when you talk about clarity, what do you mean by that?
Clarity on how you define yourself. So that is the 3 to 5 traits that you see in yourself, and 3 to 5 traits that you see in others that really stand out, that you admire, that you want to live as. The ones that you see in yourself and others are going to be your natural core traits. It's not something, I don't have to try to be relatable. For goodness sake, like, I lived more of a life than most people did before I was 13. For better or for worse, like, that's just how it was. And so, and I've made every mistake underneath the sun, so I'm extremely accepting, and I've gotten these great opportunities to be able to speak and travel and write, and they've come kind of effortlessly to me, in the sense where I'm still figuring out how it's all going to pan out in the end, and what I'm really supposed to do when I grow up. So these are things that are really natural for me, that I don't have to try to be anything. I don't have to orchestrate anything. I don't have to live up to anything. They're just my core traits. So when you have clarity on who you are, then, and what matters to you, your core values, then that's what you bring to every table. And when you do that, whether you're in the bedroom or in the boardroom, anywhere, if you're being true to yourself. Because if you're not, you won't be living within those core values. If I'm not feeling naturally confident in a situation, then I'm not supposed to be in that situation. Yeah. If I'm not feeling that connection, that natural connection that's really grace-filled and intuitive within me, like if all of my spikes are up and things are painful and my body aches, then I know something deeper is going on for the person beside me. And listening to that rather than covering it up is really important for me to honor myself in those situations. Same thing if I'm not being uplifting, if I'm in a situation which I'm never in anymore. Maybe it's why I don't have many girlfriends. As I think of it. No, but I don't sit around and I don't have a meter to listen to people really bash and bitch and complain. I want to be around people that are really uplifting, and I want to lift people up. My Facebook feed is one of the most positive places on earth. Literally. I get trapped there because it's so friggin' positive. And people complain about Facebook being so negative. When I see those posts from my friends every once in a while, I'm like, who's on your page? I have 4,000 friends, and my Facebook feed is amazing. So I that's one of my core beliefs about myself. I have clarity that I put myself, and I'm committed to being in uplifting situations and being an uplifted person. And then the next piece is being trustworthy. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Come hell or high water, I'll figure it out. And that means a lot to me. So people that aren't like that, I don't have much patience for. And I say blessings to you, and you're dismissed. Yeah. So those are my core traits. So having that clarity for yourself are things that are going to be really wonderful for you. And those are things that you're going to really enjoy about who you are. And when you're not living in value with those core traits, you'll be able to know that, oh, this situation isn't in line with who I am. And so you can dismiss yourself and your life will become more in the flow. Credibility capability, blah, 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 blah. Capability is the next piece. And it's different than credibility in the sense that we can go out and we can get certified in whatever. We can get our doctorate in whatever. I know many people with major degrees that don't do anything with their degrees because they didn't feel in their heart of hearts that it was something that their life was building them up to be capable of. And God trains the willing. So capability is what you're great at, knowing what you're great at. So I had a client who had great breakthrough with EFT and tapping and mindset and stuff like that. Wonderful, wonderful, great breakthrough. She wanted to be a coach in it, or so she thought. But her natural talents, her capability is in writing. And now she's writing for Huffington Post, and she's been on TED Talk doing intuitive writing and branding. So where she thought she needed to go because she was capable and it impacted her life, and or it impacted her life and it was benefited to her, that wasn't her capability. That wasn't her gift. So knowing your gift. My gift is really to bring people home to their bodies, see their genius. I naturally see their genius, and then I naturally share their genius with the world and teach them how to share it with the world as well. So I help people come home and tell their story, come home to themselves and tell their story. That's my capability. I'm high at it, doctorate at it. That's my genius. But for years I thought that because of my mission and my heart, my story, being a trauma therapist, was where I needed to be, and that's where I focused. But I wasn't really capable of that because I didn't have the capacity to let people continue on their story.
Right. Well,
I was
yeah.
like, if I can get over it, you can get over it. Cut the crap.
And it's, to interject for a second, it's kind of like the difference between coaching and mentoring. I mean, in our field, a lot of people want to be coaches, but if you coach people the right way, you're asking them a lot of questions, and you're letting them find the answers on their own. But if you don't have patience for that, then it's great. Learn how to be a great coach, but call yourself a mentor instead. I mean, if you want to tell people what to do, call yourself a mentor and let them understand that what they're getting is mentoring, not coaching. So we've got clarity, we've got capability, and then you move into confidence, right? That was your third C. And give us a quick overview. There's one of your clients calling right now. So you picking up the phone right now? Yeah, put it down. Antiqua's busy. We're doing an interview.
I'm hanging up. I don't even know why we have these phones anymore that actually ring.
No.
So confidence comes from that marriage of clarity and capability. That's when you go and you say, okay, where's my genius? Where do I get this training? That's where all these certificates, you can't see them, but all over my walls come from, that saying, oh, she's capable of bringing people home to their body, to wellness, to, I'm a EYRT 500 with a yoga school at the 500-hour level to certify people in my Divine in 9 program. I'm a nutritionalist. I have been a cosmetologist and worked in the beauty industry for a number of years through college. I have that wellness in the house, in the home, taking care of your body experience. I'm also certified in EFT and CERT and mindset and therapy and yoga therapy and trauma therapy, and so, you continue on into the schooling to gain the confidence, and then, of course, my coaching certifications and lifestyle design and things like this to say, okay, now I have the confidence, the worldly confidence, to take who I am and what I'm capable of, my natural gifts, my natural talents, and put it into the world and shine the brightest.
Yeah,
And that's that sweet spot, I think,
yeah, and you know it's
that I hope my clients get to.
epic, and you know it's amazing because when you get the clarity on the direction, and when you know you have the capability, and you have maybe some outside validation, but you really in your heart and soul know you have the capability. The amazing thing is as you build the confidence, it goes from initially maybe some arrogance. You know, people think you're saying that you're great, and you know they haven't experienced yet, to as people experience what you're good at doing because you've gotten clear and because you're capable, and then the compliments start coming in, then all of a sudden it just becomes confidence, and you don't have to be like, you know, the person who wants to be the center of attention, that's trying to overcome a deficiency. You know, it's kind of, you know, you don't need
Yeah,
to
that's
be
like a faux confidence. That's a
exactly.
faux confidence. This is a confidence that's like deep in, that you build from. Like, I just went through the academy with Gina DeVee, another coaching certification. I went through divorce this last year, and it was just like, okay, you know, go back to school. That's what you
Yeah.
do. You go back to school when you go through divorce. And I could either get my doctorate in positive psychology, that made sense, or I could go to this teacher training and or coaching training and travel the world. And I decided, let's do the travel the world coach training anyway. And it was intense. It was beautiful. It was a lot of coaching hours, a lot of homework, a lot of work. I mean, I'm very impressed with her program. However, what I learned in that program is I had already done enough teacher coaching trainings. like I didn't have too much to learn besides this confidence piece.
Yeah.
And that confidence piece of, oh, I already know what I know. I already know what I know, and I need to trust what I know now.
And I think, you know, and if I can interject there, I think you've just hit on the golden nugget. If folks watching haven't taken anything else from today, if you're at the point where you're sick of watching TV shows and webinars and everything else, you just got to get the confidence that you know what you know. I know I was in the same boat where, you know, I thought that, I guess here's the best way to put it. I thought that if I stopped going to classes and stop watching webinars and stuff, that it meant I wasn't still learning. And what it really meant was that I had to be more selective and figure out what smaller things, what areas do I need to focus on to really learn. And it meant that, yeah, you know, there was that, you know, it meant that the wealth of knowledge was there. I just had to be confident in using it. I mean, like I said, I went through, you know, exactly the same thing where you're going, you know, well, wait a minute, you know, I have to go to all these things because that's what everybody says, that if you're in this industry, you just have to keep going to conferences. And eventually you got to realize that, where do you want to be? Do you want to be the person sitting in the seats of the conference, or do you want to be the person giving the conference? And for you watching, it's the same thing. Maybe it's not conference, but it's the same thing. Do you want to be the person learning about your what you're doing, or do you want to be the person doing what you're doing? Right, Antiqua?
Correct. Yep. And then stepping into that confidence, and then I'll share my last piece whenever you're ready.
Epic, yeah. And you know, we just talked for so long that, yeah, we really have to get to that one life-changing word. And you know, and at this point, I guess it'd be a really good time to get there. So we're talking about one. Now we're going to go into the third piece, is one life-changing word. What's the one word that's going to change our life today, Antiqua?
You know what, everybody? All you have to say is yes. Yes. If you have an inkling to work with a coach, say yes. Figure out a way. Find the money. You know, if you have an inkling to go to Europe, to fly someplace, to travel the world, say yes. If you want to jump on a boat and have always wanted to but have never said yes, friggin' say yes. Stop waiting for somebody else to define your life and give you permission. Say yes. When somebody calls you and says, hey, do you want to be on this radio show, or do you want to do this event, or do you want to work with me? Say yes. Say yes. We always wait till we're prepared. You know what? You're never prepared. We're never prepared. Just say yes and go and live. Start playing.
Yeah, and that is such epic advice, and it's interesting because you're right. People always try and wait till the right time or that they're prepared, and like you just
Or
said,
they have the
Antika.
money or they have the time. You know
Yeah.
what? I didn't have the time for a 30 plus hour a week training program or to travel to 4 different countries this last year. I definitely didn't have the money to invest the $15,000 plus vacations and everything that it costed. And you know what? All of it fell into place. And I found the money. Working full time, mommying full time, like I did it. And I traveled and it was a blast. If you say yes, then life happens and it works for you in one way or the other. It might not be comfortable all the time. I made an investment this year that I'm still going, where's it coming from?
Yeah.
But because it was the next level up for me. But but it's coming, like it has to, because I said yes. I said yes to my life. And when you say yes to your life, whatever your desires are, and find a way, ways find you.
Well, and that is the biggest key, and it's all about what you focus on. And I think saying yes is epic. I know many moons ago we had another guest on the show who talked about a similar topic about saying yes, and it's so how can I put this? Yes is so easy to say, and as long as you say yes to something you truly want to do and really feel that if you took all the excuses out, you would do, then you're saying yes to then you're saying yes to the right thing. And once you say
Yeah.
yes, you focus on it and you make it happen. Right now, while you're saying no, the fact of it is the universe is giving you exactly what you're asking for. God and the universe are going, okay, nope, not a problem, dude. We're going to give you exactly what you're asking for. Like Antika said, it might not always be easy, and can either Antika or I promise that if you say yes and you invest $1 million that it's going to just show up and it's going to happen? No, we can't guarantee that, but I can tell you from listening to Antika and from my own experience that we've known enough people that when they've said yes to the right thing, and meaning the right thing is if you remove all the excuses and still want to say yes, then it's the right thing. That we've seen it happen. Whether it's money falling into place, whether it's getting a job, whether it's getting it's we could talk for I'm sure we could talk forever on the power of saying yes. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that was the one life changing word.
That's it. It's yes. It's a yes.
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 So So real quick, before I tell everybody and give everybody a special offer, because we've got a little something special for you, you definitely have to stick around and take advantage of. Before I do that, is there anything else you want to say to our audience today, kind of in closing at this point?
Yeah. I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for being here, Chris. Thank you so much for having me on the Expert Showcase. It's beautiful to be here. I feel honored to be an expert, and I have gotten to this place in my life. It's a brilliant place to be, and I would really love to work with you. If I stand out for you, if it sounds like you're ready to say yes to your life, to find that place of defining yourself, to tap in and see and start focusing on your genius and step into your message and your mission, whatever that looks like to you, because sometimes it's, focusing on the family, and other times it's focusing on changing the world. And I work with people everywhere in between. As odd as that sounds, is totally true. So I have programs for you to love yourself and come home to your body, the Divine in 9 program, an Amazing You coaching program. And I also have programs for people really ready to take their message to the world, my Rising Star programs. And I have different levels of participation in both of those. So I would love to work with you to get on my email list and to get a free consultation with me about your next steps in defining yourself. You can do that at antiqualisha.com, ANTIQUALISHA.com, and you'll get a free copy of my book, and also linked right into my calendar, so you can make an appointment and let's get together.
Definitely, and I just threw the website up on the screen. So, folks,
Ah,
the website's on the screen. Definitely want to head over to antiqualisha.com. Get your message out. You can see on there, there's some dashes in there. So for those of you who aren't looking at the screen, just don't start typing. Come back and look at us. We've got smiling faces. It's okay. We don't know why you clicked off and are watching the cat video right now when you should be watching us. We don't know that, but come on back, because we want you back. So take a look at the screen. Take a look. You've got to connect with Antiqua. She is an expert in the field. I get so many people. In closing, I get so many people that come to me every day when I talk about experts, and they kind of chuckle and laugh. Yeah, that person calls them an expert. Well, guess what? This isn't Antiqua calling herself an expert. This is me, your trusted host, Chris M. Sprague, calling her an expert, because that's what she is.
yeah.
Only experts get on Expert Showcase. You've got to connect with Antiqua. You heard from her heroine's journey what she's been through. And you know what? For my money, somebody who's been through that, changed their life, turned their life around, that's the type of expert, A, I want on Expert Showcase, and B, I want to work with, because they've been there. They know, they can understand, they can empathize with the things that I'm going through, and they can empathize with you. That's why you need to check out AntiquaLisha.com. You need to go and see what she's got to offer. You need to go and schedule your Rising Stars planning session, because it's going to make your life better. It's going to improve your life. You're going to learn things like how to say yes, especially if you're somebody who sits there and makes every excuse under the sun why you shouldn't do something. Get in touch with Antiqua. She's going to help you. She's going to show you how to say yes.
But you have to say yes.
But you have to say yes. So guess what? If you're saying it's only a website, so if you're saying no, go over there, click it. Why, if you listened to us this whole time, you gotta go over there. Breath, I have to remember to breathe every now and then. So folks, it's been another epic episode. Thank you very much, Antiqua, for being on the show today. You're an epic guest. You're welcome. And for all of our epic viewers, until next time, make it an epic day.